Now, speaking of the entire application, there are a lot of students that feel that they're competitive, they have good test scores, they have good grades, but how do they differentiate themselves from all the other students all across the country that are competitive and have good test scores and good grades? So in your experience, what can a student do to stand out from the pack?
Well, they have to be interesting. They have to have found a way to find I don't like to use the word passion, but something that really sets them apart so that their application just zings out from the crowd. It could be being trilingual. It could, they're just somebody you'd want for a roommate, somebody who the professors will be so happy to have in their class. And that's usually based on some experience that they've had or something they've done so that they become, and another thing that's very, very important, I do believe, is catching the idea that this student will participate. This is not a student who will stay in their room and stare at the computer and play, and be a computer person. They want to know if somebody on the hallway yells, "Who wants to play ultimate frisbee?" This will be the first person out of the door. They want somebody who's going to join the club, somebody who's going to be active. They want a happy campus, and they're afraid of the students who don't show that they're team members or team players or have done collaborative. Things that are collaborative, things that have to do with being on a team, these are indicators that you know how to be a team member, that you know how to get along with others. I think it's a big fear when you're looking at thousands of applications and you don't know these young people, that you're looking for something that says, this is not a loner, this is not a strange kid, this is somebody who is on a team. I always say to the students, you can't fake being on a team. If you're on a team, you have to show up, you have to go to the tryouts, you have to go to the practice, and then you have to show up for the game. You might have to sit on the bench, but you have to be there. So I don't know. I think the participation thing is very important.
Also, your book.
I'm sitting here shaking in the bed. You hit the nail on the head with interesting. I call it the hook. A lot of us call it the hook. It's the one thing that sets you apart, and each student has a hook. Everyone has something that is going to make him or her stand out, and it could be an activity, it could be a life experience that you've been through, it could be a passion, it could be an academic interest. One example was a South African student who was interested in snakes, and she was hoping to use her herpetology interest to use snake venom to cure cancer. That was her hook. Another student really turned into his own science experiment. He looked in the mirror at the end of sophomore year and in high school, and he realized he was overweight and underachieving. And he was getting straight A's, floating through school in honors courses in a school that had an international baccalaureate program. And so over the summer, he decided to change his life. He got into the IB program. He lost 60 pounds, and he went on to ace his grades and go on and go into aerospace engineering. But his hook was his decision to transform himself from this overweight, underachieving student. And it made a great essay, and he was memorable. And that's what students want. They want to be remembered. They want to catch the eye of that admissions officer, whether it's Jim or Rod, whoever is out there watching, and be remembered.
One of the ways in which students catch the eye of an admissions officer is by being able to convey how special they are. It may even be, I was sitting here thinking I was a rather ordinary kid, but I think I was a pretty good writer. So I just really want to put in a plug for the importance of writing. Because I was sitting here a minute ago, I was listening to my colleagues, thinking of the words of one of the admissions officers, the smartest one actually that I've ever worked with at Stanford. And she said, Jim, we're admitting applications. We're not admitting applicants when you're reading thousands and thousands and thousands. And it just reminds me of the fact that you have to be a good writer. So as you prepare for college, and again, you can never start too early in terms of preparing in this way. That is reading and writing. They're really key to success because ultimately that's how you convey to an admissions officer today, for the most part, who you are.
And adding on to that, I sometimes ask students when they feel that their application is almost finished, but they're not completely happy with it, they feel like something might be missing. So I ask them, well, what is it that is missing then? Because invariably, they're missing some part of themselves, and they can feel it. And sometimes that very final thing, that very last thing, needs to be included, needs to be conveyed. Sometimes it's demonstrating initiative. Like, there are some students who feel that they need to join a whole lot of clubs and a whole lot of teams in order to show that they're an active person who will participate. But there are other students who only participate in one or two things, and that can be fine, particularly if it's something that they initiated themselves. If they started a club because their school didn't have a club in something that they really cared about. There was a young woman that I worked with a few years ago who she was the only high school member of the National Organization for Women in San Francisco, and so she attended all of her meetings at San Francisco State. So she decided that she would start a NOW chapter at her high school. And she very successfully did that, and many of the young women got involved. So then she decided to create a website so that other high school students could bring the NOW organization to their campuses and they wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. Well, as you might imagine, that student did very, very well in the application process, and part of it was because of the wonderful way that she conveyed that in her application with her writing.
And where on the application is the best place to convey this special hook? Is it all through the essay? Is there a way to weave it into letters of recommendation from teachers? Or is it absolutely everything that you have to make sure that your hook is weaved all throughout?
Actually, you hit the nail on the head. I think you need to weave it through every aspect of your application, not in a way that's going to be offensive, but certainly in your activities list. You should lead your activities list with it. You should make sure at least one essay, either a supplemental essay, the short essay on the Common App, or a main essay, has something to do with your hook. And if you are including a resume, which some schools require, or if you haven't had enough opportunity to give enough information in the activity list, then be sure you lead that resume with a hook. I mean, it goes without reason when admissions officers are reading hundreds of applications, you want to be absolutely sure that you don't put your hook third in line. I had an example of a student whose hook was photography, and he was also a basketball player and captain of the basketball team, and when he was making out his activities list, he put varsity basketball first. Well, it turned out he was on a team that really wasn't very accomplished, and even though he was the captain, which was wonderful and showed leadership, he certainly wasn't going to be a recruited athlete. And if he hadn't switched it around and put it first, it could have been overlooked, although he did also submit his photographic portfolio, so I have a feeling that would have been remembered. But still, let's lead with your best. Don't hide your light under a bushel. So, step out there and present yourself in a powerful way.